Let us talk about the ERA. We've had this discussion before. Virginia was very close, and for those who don't know the history, it was actually approved by most of the states, but didn't quite make it when it came up for addition to the United States Constitution. That said, if ratified by 38 states, it would make discrimination on the basis of sex illegal. And March is Women's History Month, and it's March 1st, so why not talk about it? Winsome McIntosh is in the studio with us, president of the McIntosh Foundation. And by the way, I should mention the Twitter handle is at Winsome McIntosh. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Move up to the mic there so we can make sure we can hear. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the history. So the ERA, how long have you been active in trying to get this into the Constitution?
Only in the last 18 months, essentially.
Okay. What is it that needs to get it over the finish line, and give us a sense of where we are right now?
Well, as you mentioned, we only have one more state to need to ratify it, and then it automatically goes into the Constitution. It would, I think there'll probably be challenges to it.
There is one other congressional action that's required, right? In other words, to extend the deadline, because you have to get the 38 out of the 50 states, but then the Congress, there usually is a deadline. It was extended 10 years, but now we're way past that.
Right, and that's what the challenges are all about.
Okay.
And so for me, I have put together with our foundation a legal team to analyze what those challenges are going to be and find solutions for them so that we don't run up against a buzzsaw of losing it over a technicality.
Mm-hmm. This is as much a political as a legal challenge, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it actually is.
So what's your sense of the room, if you will, like the House and the Senate, and what they would need to do?
Well, I just met with Jackie Spear office last week, and she has introduced a bill to add time onto or eliminate the time factor that was put on for 1982.
Just sort of dismiss the deadline, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And the Congress can do that because it's not part of the actual amendment itself. It was an addendum to it. And I think that hopefully will be done, and that would take care of one of the pitfalls.
So step one is eliminate the statute of limitations, if you will, on bringing it up. Okay, that's step number one. Then what comes? Then
the next challenge is the rescission of 5 states that was done back in 1972. And the legal opinions that I have seen show that there is no provision within our Constitution right now that, in fact, recognizes rescissions at all. And there are a number of amendments that have been added to the Constitution.
Okay, explain this when you say rescissions. What are these states? I mean, the states we're talking about are what? Virginia, Arizona, Minnesota, Georgia, and North Carolina. Is that right?
No, those are states that are still considering ratification.
Okay. But others have actually sort of...
But 5 others, primarily back in 1972, led by Kansas, mostly Western...
Changed their mind?
Changed their mind. That's what they did.
Okay.
But that's never been recognized in any of the amendments that we have had in a lot... going way back. So
the idea of a state changing its mind is something that has no precedent, you're saying, and you think that would not be able to stand constitutional change.
I don't know, but I think it'll go to the Supreme Court for a decision, probably.
All right. So that's another little hurdle. Make the case, popular opinion, because I remember when this debate very well was raging about this, and there were people like Phyllis Schlafly who were saying, we don't need an equal right amendment, And I know you're rolling your eyes.
Yes.
But that said, there are some people who say, look, the more things you specify, the less powerful in some ways the Constitution is. I mean, if you've got amendments in there that call for all being equal, why do we need something that specifies that, based on sex? And especially in the context of the challenges today on what constitutes sex.
Yeah, that'll muddy the waters, but the trouble is you cannot count on the 14th Amendment or the Fifth Amendment to actually deal with issues that affect women differently than men.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find unfortunate about our situation globally is that we're one of the few Western countries that does not declare men and women equal in a constitution. And it's long overdue. I think that the women aspect of it, it's actually a simple sentence: equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. And that wording is almost identical to the 19th Amendment, which is the only amendment in there that mentions any thing about women by giving them the right to vote. And that was quite some time ago.
Winsome McIntosh is with us, president of the McIntosh Foundation. We're talking about the ERA and where it might go, eventually becoming a part of the Constitution. Obviously, people are going to wonder about what would be the net effect of something like this. In other words, how would this change things? I will say that the other day there was a ruling by a judge that said that young women should register for the draft. This is absent Equal Rights Amendment. But in other words, we are starting to see more discussions about these kinds of things. What would be a practical application if this did indeed become part of the Constitution?
Well, I think what it does is it evens out all the laws across our country. We have lots of different states who have ERAs in their state constitutions, but they're all very different. So there needs to be a common balance of what the equal rights of any individual means. That women are not mentioned at all in the Constitution.
Well, there's a bunch of guys wrote it, so I mean,
Yeah, well, I know. Those were different times,
They
right?
were, for sure. I speak lightly, but it is a serious question because, and the point is, I think I'm glad you read it on the air because it seems to me that the discussion is not so much about everything that men and women do are equal. You use the same bathrooms or, those kinds of things. The point is that it's just saying that you cannot be denied something simply on the basis of your sex. That's what it's saying.
That's exactly what it's saying.
It's just protecting you from discrimination.
And it's just making a firm law there that the courts, with all of the challenges they have in looking at various, cases that they have, gives them greater strength to basically make decisions based on the what they call a secure level of analysis as opposed to an intermediate level of analysis. It's a legal term that I sort of understand.
Okay, don't take me down that road either, please.
No, I know. It gets very technical, yeah.
Okay, I understand. So, again, you've got the Representative Jackie Spear, as you mentioned, California, introducing this piece, and there will have to be companion legislation in the Senate.
And that's already there with Ben Cardin.
Okay.
And they are coordinating that.
Is that bipartisan? Because you mentioned two Democrats. Are there Republicans on board on this, too? Or?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
I can't tell you who they are, but yes.
Okay, so...
There's 153... that have signed on to it already.
Well, this sounds then pretty promising for you.
Yeah.
How about the administration? Is there a position from the White House on this? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't know.
You got an instinct on?
I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, there are times when I think that this would be one of those. This would be in some ways a no-brainer for the president because it's not like taking something away from somebody.
Right.
That's the point. Because if you look constitutionally, I do know enough about the Constitution historically, is that the only time that it ever took something away from you was the amendment to prohibit alcohol, which took it away, and then of course they repealed that because they realized that it was causing chaos and the whole Roaring Twenties thing. But in this particular case, this is not saying you are going to be denied rights if you're not a woman. It's just saying you are not going to be denied rights just because you're a woman, or because you're a man.
Exactly.
Because it
could
work both ways, right?
Laws. Okay. It's going to really firm up the laws and make it equal for
everybody.
everybody.
I would guess it would probably cover, though, if you were thinking about it, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I would think it would cover the issue of transsexual men and women or transsexual individuals, just because of the fact that on the basis of sex, if you are being denied something on the basis of your sex, whether it's male, female, transgender, whatever, you would still be able to make a case, I would think. I mean, I'm not trying to litigate this thing right here.
Yeah, I think so. But
if you're making the political argument that it's not just about women, if somebody says, well, you're complicating, it's complicated because sex is complicated now.
But remember, we do have the 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment, and those are privacy. Sorry.
That's okay.
Those are privacy protections that, in fact, have been used on a lot of the laws that the women's movement has been able to, move along in equalizing out women's rights.
What's your time frame on this, do you think? I mean, if Representative Speer has introduced this, then are we going to have committee hearings? Is this going to be something that could move rather quickly? Do you have a feeling for it? No.
I think the time frame will come when that 38th state ratifies.
Okay.
And
is that going to be Virginia?
No, it's not going to be Virginia now. And it probably won't be Arizona. But there's a bunch of other states that are all
I think I mentioned
beginning
Minnesota.
Minnesota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia.
All right.
And so we have to wait and see if that last state is going to step up and make history, essentially. And I would think that would be something most states would want to do, because it's I mean, who can be against equal rights for everybody?
We will watch
to put it in the Constitution.
We will watch and see how it plays out. Thanks for coming in the studio.
Thank you so much.
Joining us in the studio again, that is Winsome McIntosh, president of the McIntosh Foundation, talking about the future of the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, and the Twitter handle is @Winsome, WINSOME, McIntosh, MCINTOSH.